This game has some incredibly iconic moments. Johnny Rogers' punt return.
Oh, yeah.
Black 41 flash reverse. Then there was the time in 2004 when a Central Nebraska sports reporter got an in-depth preview of Big Red's trip to Norman.
Nebraska and Oklahoma, a rivalry that epitomizes college football. And the Huskers are anxious to get down to Norman.
It'll be a challenging atmosphere.
This is the challenging atmosphere. This is Norman, population 48, ready for tomorrow's game.
Well, the town really grows, when the games come here.
Nebraska and Oklahoma will meet in Norman tomorrow in what some are calling a big road game for the Big Red. But the residents of Norman disagree.
I don't know about that. I haven't seen very much Oklahoma Red around here.
Roy Werner has lived in Norman for all of his 24 years. And as he works on his 92 Volkswagen, he can only imagine what tomorrow will bring.
No one knows how many people's actually going to show up. Prediction 70,000. We don't know where it's all going to fit.
Is this the field here where they're going to play? Is this where they usually play out here?
Yeah, that's where they usually play out there. Unless they change on going to a different field, which possibly could be.
It looks a lot bigger on TV.
Oh, yeah. It definitely is a lot bigger on TV.
Here in Norman, it's going to be crazy tomorrow night as the Huskers and Sooners are set to kick off tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock. But there is a lot of concern here in this town that this field won't even be ready for the game.
It's got a lot of nightcrawler mounds over there. It's pretty rough, So they're going to probably have to get a roller or something and kind of roll the ground out and get it smoothed out, so they don't fall all over themselves.
Roland Jacobson has lived in Norman since 1968 and says there's a lot of work yet to do on the field before tomorrow.
The goalposts, I suppose I'll have to put those up too, but they'll get her done.
Yeah, there aren't any goalposts right now.
No, not right yet, but as soon as the people start showing up, they'll probably put them in.
Another foreseeable problem, lodging. There are no hotels in Norman, just a lot of windmills. And as 81-year-old Marvin Scharf says, people can't sleep in windmills.
Norman ain't got that many hotels for that many people.
Where do they stay?
Oh, there's Minden, Hastings, they can go. Other little towns east here, Holstein.
And what about the traffic? Cramming 1,600 times your population into your town? It seems impossible.
I suppose we'll probably have to get the county sheriff and probably some of the highway patrolmen down here to kind of help us direct the traffic and stuff like that.
Maybe a 4-lane highway would help.
4-lane highway, maybe helicopters over.
Because there's going to be about 70,000 people here, and that's a lot for a small town like that.
I don't know how they're going to feed them all. I don't understand where they're going to put them all, but I suppose there'll be where there's a will, there's a way.
And now the creator of said masterpiece, formerly of NTV, formerly of KETV in Omaha, currently with ESPN, Matt Schick.
Oh, man.
Matt, where did you come up with this idea in the first place?
First of all, I haven't seen that in at least 15 years. So there were some lines I remembered in that, but as I'm watching it, I'm almost watching it as a new viewer and getting to experience it in some ways for the first time. I don't know. It's like what Jerry Seinfeld said one time, where do ideas come from? I don't really know. They just pop into your head, maybe during a dream or something. But I do remember driving through Norman, Nebraska, maybe on the way to or back from Blue Hill or something like that, and not knowing that there was a Norman, Nebraska, and knowing that Nebraska was going to Norman that year. And that was one of those trying years in 2004 where you're just looking for something to, covering the team is just depressing, right, at that time in 2004. So you're just trying to come up with something. And, let's see if we can just pretend the game is going to be in Norman, Nebraska, population 40-something. That was, I don't know why they allowed that on TV. Why did they allow that story to air?
Because
I don't know.
It was ridiculously funny. And what was funny was your writing, of course, Schick, but
the guys you interviewed played along like they were actors in this thing, Matt. I mean, they were fantastic.
How'd you
these
get them to
gentlemen.
buy
These
in?
guys, yeah.
So there weren't a lot of times, and you guys know how it is, that you get your own photographer in sports to cover a story you're going to do, right? You're usually one-man banding. And so this was a time where I was given this opportunity to have a photographer. And I remember, I believe it was Jared Gedke, who was our photographer at the time. And he and I went there. And again, we didn't, like, this wasn't like Google time where you can Google people's phone numbers and give calls. We literally knocked on doors in Norman. We drove there, not like just assuming someone would be home. I don't know what day of the week it was. I think it was a weekend, but I'm not sure. But just going there in the middle of the afternoon, knocking on doors and trying to present this, hey, Matt Schick with NTV, you hope they've heard of me, you hope they've watched NTV, and I would imagine they did. They're only 20 miles from the station. And you tell them the idea, and I don't know how much buy-in there was, but hey, how often does NTV come to our small little village? Let's do it. And there weren't really a lot of lines that I gave them. A lot of it, to their credit, was just them reacting and trying to pretend like, you know, it looks a lot bigger on TV. And the guy's saying, oh, it is a lot bigger on TV. I don't tell them to say those things, or, hey, you know, how are you going to fit all these people? And the gentleman with the cowboy hat saying, yeah, I don't know, where there's a will, there's a way. Like, most of those were just ad libs of them just pulling it off. And I can't, in watching that back, there's a reason it doesn't feel scripted, because most of their lines were not.
Wow, that's amazing.
Guys, it was great to relive it. I still remember doing that story, and I did a bunch of those when I moved on to KETV in Omaha, but that was the one that I put on my resume reel to help get a job in Omaha. So the folks of Norman played a huge part in my career. There's no question about it. Norman, Nebraska, not Norman, Oklahoma. That's right. And I do remember, as the story aired, one of the joys I got was walking back to the set and seeing Colleen drying her eyes with tissues because she didn't know what was coming. She didn't know what the story was going to be. And just to see that reaction, you, Seth, you guys were great encouragers of some of my work and some of the failed comedy that I tried. But it's good to know at least something landed, and I'm glad after all these years we could revisit it. That was a lot of fun.
Gobs of fun.
Matt Schick, soaring to the top.
Yeah, indeed. Good to see you, my friend.
You too, guys.